Obviously, Microsoft just had their Surface event a couple of weeks ago. This was after our, not long after our last episode, so it's our first chance to talk about it. I've actually been excited by this in the sense that I think I've even said before that I've wanted to see an alternative to, the M series chips in the MacBooks over on the PC side. Although these are announcements, obviously, I have no reason to doubt that these particular chips, combined with the tech that they've put, the hardware that they've got there, is probably going to measure up and actually be the first genuine ARM-based Windows series of devices, which can actually genuinely compete with the MacBooks. It's still curious, that they felt the need to have to compare themselves to the M3 line of MacBook Airs every 5 seconds in the presentation. I didn't think they needed to do that because I thought I would have thought that it would have been enough for them to just say that there are obviously I'm in the Apple ecosystem and I've got Apple hardware, but I do still have an appreciation for Windows hardware and Windows as a ecosystem as well. So why can't Windows enthusiasts have an option that's equivalent to, say, a MacBook? I'm all for that. I think that's a great thing if that happens, because obviously I would think also spur on Apple to do better as well, because if they never want to be seen to be behind. So it's good for them, but I also think it's just good to have an alternative device that has the same capabilities and performance.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I thought the most interesting thing was it's all Snapdragon. There's not an Intel in sight. I thought that for me was really interesting and very telling. Obviously, Intel is trying to create ARM chips, but they're stuck with what was the best form of processing 5 or 6 years ago, and now it's not, it doesn't meet needs. And it's interesting because a lot was made of the speed of the new Snapdragon chips which they've got in the Surface range, but if you went for pure speed, arguably the Intel architecture is faster or can do heavier processing more quickly. But it goes to show that really the way that we're using our devices these days don't require heavy crunching. We require, cooler running chips that are able to process multiple tasks more quickly, but aren't necessarily real sort of processor crunching sort of tasks. So it's interesting to see this shift. I completely have no understanding of what quicker than Apple means. Like, I mean, I'll say it, I've got an M1 chip in the MacBook Pro I'm using. That's as fast as anything I've ever used. And I don't know how it could be faster because I wouldn't even see it if it was faster. So, I don't understand what that part of it is. However, it is exciting, just like you said, Ben, to see a range of new products that window native and, give the functionality and a lot of the features that we appreciate, on the Apple ecosystem into a Windows and into the Surface environment. So that's great.
Absolutely. And I guess finally we have to touch on the AI elephant in the room here, because obviously it had to be part of the presentation.
What is it, Ben? And what is this AI that they speak of?
Well, apparently they've branded it as is it Copilot plus PC, because obviously Copilot is going to be their engine for all the AI stuff. Another word for assistant. I mean, it's a nice fancy word. You've got your Copilot next to you, helping you out and whatever.
What happened to the paperclip?
Yeah, Clippy or whatever it was in Office.
What happened to the paperclip? He was helpful.
That's right. But it just, I know we were talking about it before we got on today, but to me, it's not just Microsoft, obviously. They did it in this presentation, but I remember this from the Google presentation that happened this year. And I've no doubt that when we get around to talking about Apple's announcements in a couple of weeks' time, when they do their stuff, they're really just rolling out features. That's essentially what they're doing, but they're branding them as AI, and they're getting an extra media cycle out of it, or an enhanced media cycle out of it, than they otherwise would if it was just a feature.
Oh, yeah. Well, I agree that, with you on that one. And I'm glad you explained to me before the show that, instead of using a drop down menu, I guess what? I speak to my laptop and it will take me to the last document I opened.
Yeah, essentially, yes.
Well, that's wow. I'm blown away.
Absolutely, but that's what I'm saying. It's like, it's not that these things aren't great. I mean, using say an equivalent of whatever ChatGPT is built into Windows. Obviously Microsoft has to dress it up in a way that suits Windows and the way they want it to look and everything. But having that functionality is useful, and I've used ChatGPT to do some things. It's amazing how good it is at spitting out things that can actually be useful, even though you probably have to go in and tweak it afterwards to make sure that it's working properly. But as a side note, I typed in there one day, write me a limerick about introverts, and it actually came up with a rather fun, really clever limerick. But anyway, I digress. So it's not as if that any of that's useful, but I don't. It's just a little bit. Do you think people can see through this whole thing about okay, you got some good features there, but is it AI? That's the thing.
And this is the question. I also wonder, does it just stay within your system, or is it fed back? So when it says it knows your preferences, who exactly knows your preferences? If it knows everything you've browsed and is thinking about what you like browsing, what is that doing in the background? I just wonder.
Well, I think you're touching on one of the features that they announced, which was I can't remember exactly what it was called, but it was remembering what you were doing in a more real-time way, as opposed to doing some sort of version history or whatever. And obviously, you start to think about, all right, well then it's capturing everything I'm doing, privacy out the window, whatever. And it'll be interesting to see if how Apple responds to that too, because obviously Apple's version of AI is going to have, but we're concerned about users' privacy. So how's that going to work?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting, that side of it. But on a more positive note, I like the idea that they're incorporating it now with some of the creative products. Once again, there didn't seem to be a whole lot of information on what that meant, but maybe if you have a, I don't know, a favorite filter series or something like that for your videos or images that you're creating, maybe it, you won't have to go to a drop-down menu to find what you like, or do your presets or something. Maybe it'll just know.
Absolutely.